Hello, good evening, and welcome to Prog Chattery 777. We are talking about Primus, and we've made it to the Brown album. This is their 5th studio album. It was released in 1997, and it's the first to feature a brand new Primus lineup on record. So we've got Les Claypool on vocals and bass, Larry Lalonde on guitar, and Brian Brain Mantia replacing Tim Alexander on the drums. So, yeah, I mean, at this point in Primus's career, they did achieve a substantial amount of success with the previous album. Tales from the Punch Bowl had Winona's Big Brown Beaver on it, so, I mean, they were really busy. And I think that contributed to the reasons why Tim Alexander left. You know, things just get too crazy in these situations, and I guess he just needed an escape, so Tim Alexander made his leave. And around that time, Claypool was also toying around with a solo project called The Holy Mackerel. And for the live performances of that project, he had Brian Brain Mantia on the drums. So that's how that connection was made. And I guess when it came time to make the new Primus record, they needed a drummer, and Brain got the job. And he's very much a different drummer than Tim Alexander. You know, Brain's got a much more... at least in Primus, he gives a much more straight-ahead, heavy rock kind of approach. You know, he's got a real funky, there's a funky nuance to a lot of his playing, but it's very different to Tim Alexander. You know, Tim Alexander, he's got a very jazzy, polyrhythmic kind of approach to the drums, and that really contributed to the sound that Primus was going for prior to this album. You know, on Tales from the Punch Bowl, we get that real peak of their you know, the psychedelic sort of atmospheric kind of sound that they were going for at the time. And this is almost the antithesis of that. You know, the new drumming style contributes to that sound, but I think, you know, the band in general was looking for new things, and the big thing that I get off this record is simplicity. The songs themselves have been stripped back quite a bit. We don't get the same extended, you know, kind of trippy atmospheres. It's the songs are kind of compacted a little bit more, and the arrangements are a little bit more, I guess, I don't want to say predictable, but the arrangements are a little bit more traditional, perhaps. So the songs themselves, I think, are less experimental than the previous albums. But they're still really good. I think, you know, it's still got that typical Primus weirdness, but I think most of the weirdness on this album is with the production rather than the songs themselves. It's got a very quirky production to it. I guess they were really going for, you know, a Bonham-esque kind of drum sound. They wanted the really big drums, the raw room sound, you know, just throw a mic down and, you know, bash away on the drums and, you know, just capture the general ambience of the room. Which I like, you know, to a certain extent, but there's a certain amount of ear fatigue that I get listening to this record just because of the production on the drums. You know, like I said, I like that raw sound, but it's super raw on this. I guess Tom Waits said about the album, he likes the album because it sounds like it needs a good wash. And that's that's quite true. That's a quote from Over the Electric Grapevine, which is a really good book on Primus. If you want to learn more about the Primus world, you should check that out. But, yeah, it's got a very quirky production. I mean, it does sound dirty and gritty, and it's just kind of blasting through the speakers. It almost sounds like it was recorded in the 1940s, but then amped up to 11. Which, like I said, I mean, for some of the tracks it works really good, but there's probably 2 or 3 songs on the album where again, that harsh drum sound is just, it wears down on the ears, and I think it, you know, the drum sound, you know, serves as a detriment to some of the songs. But, you know, that's okay, that's just what they were doing at the time. Like I said, there's always a different experiment or a different, you know, attempt to do something different for each album, right? So, you know, the thing was production on this, I guess. And, you know, it's also, you know, the first album with a new drummer, so, you know, I guess they got kind of something to prove there. But on the whole, it is kind of the exact opposite of the previous album. It's nothing like Tales from the Punch Bowl. There's moments, I guess, that are similar enough, but you know, whereas Punch Bowl and even Pork Soda and Seas of Cheese have this expansive kind of landscape to them. These are just little vignettes. And so I will say some of my favorite Claypool lyrics are on this album. Actually, this is, you know, speaking of Tom Waits, this is kind of the Tom Waitsy album as far as I see it, because a lot of the songs are dealing with those seedy characters. You know, they're stories of these, you know, freaky people, which is cool. That's a great little Claypool kind of a thing. It's got that folky element, you know. Musically, it's not folky, but you know, the lyrics and the way the songs are structured have that folky vibe to it. So the album cover is really cool. I'm missing the original outer sleeve that came out. It's much nicer. It's a little brighter, but I've lost that over the years. I've had this album for a long time, so we get the inside sleeve that you don't see quite so much, which is fine. We get to see the band in that. Anyway, let's talk about the tracks. It's track time. So the album opens with the return of Savingden Willoughby. So this is the third reference to Sathingden Willoughby, the seedy politician. Of course, he was referenced first on Frizzle Fry with Savingden Willoughby, and then there's the Savingden Waltz on Seas of Cheese as well, which is quite fun and demented. And on this album, we get the vibe of like a political rally. It kind of starts out a little similarly to Tales from the Punch Bowl, in that we have that live sound. We hear the sound of a crowd, of an audience. And, you know, the song's pretty good. It's got the big dirging drums, just boom, 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 boom. Which is a big change in style compared to Tim Alexander's playing. And we get some wonderful, demented chanting from Claypool, you know, as he's addressing this crowd at this political rally of sorts. And there's a really, really cool break. I like that funky riff. Great riff. And what Larry Lalonde is contributing on top of that, I think he's got a kill switch. I think he's doing a kill switch or something along those lines, and it gives a pretty cool atmosphere. And I like as the song goes along, Claypool's rambling gets more sporadic, which lends a certain amount of tension to the song, which is quite cool. It's a good intro. I quite enjoy it. That brings us over to track 2, which is Fisticuffs. And this is where we can really hear that raw production style. It sounds more, you know, it doesn't sound live now. We actually just kind of get the raw room that it's been recorded in. We kind of get introduced to that rawness. And yeah, it's funny. I get the idea that Fisticuffs is a pretty highly regarded Primus song, but it's never been one of my favorites for whatever reason. It's a really catchy bass line. I love the intro. That that's a great little bit, but I don't know. It might just overstay its welcome a little bit. It is quite repetitive, but you know, it's fine. Great lyrics to it. You know, it's this kind of a story of a boxer who loses his life to the game. And again, it has that. You know, there's some old dates reference to it, so it, you know, even the lyrics have an old rustic quality. You know, it sounds like it's from the 40s, and the lyrics are kind of talking about that. And I get those images in my head. You know, golden age of boxing and whatnot. But yeah, you know, it's an okay song. Not one of my favorites on the album. Track 3, however, Golden Boy, is possibly one of my favorite Primus songs. It is a great track. Really, really funky, and this is where Brain really kind of gets to show off his skills for the first time, and a lot of those little hi-hat licks that he throws in there that really contribute to that funky groove. It's just such a great riff. It's so catchy, and it's it's wonderful. Lyrics about you know, little golden boy, you know, mama's little angel. Turns out he's a cold-blooded killer, and we get that rare F-bomb shot. Shoot that fucker again, yes I would. Which is a great moment of tension and kind of the peak of the song, the climax of the song. But yeah, one of my favorite tracks, and it's one that hasn't been played live that much, funnily enough. There's a video fairly recently where they come out as an encore, and they play it as the encore. I think that's how it is. But could be one of the best songs on the album for me. I really like Golden Boy. Move over to track 4, we get Over the Falls. This is a really well-known song, and again, another one of my favorites on the album. I really like Over the Falls. Great 6/8 blues, quite acoustic. It's very short, you know, it's a very tightly compact song, but it's everything about it is just right. You know, it's the right length, it's got the right vibe to it and everything. And again, it has that really rustic, old-timey feel. You know, the music video has got the black and white look to it, so it's cool. It sounds like it needs a good wash. And presuming Over the Falls is in reference to Niagara Falls, which is just about an hour away from here, funnily enough. But great stuff. And of course, he has the stand-up bass again to get that wonderful sound. I like the acoustic flavor, the more... It's bluesy folky, I guess. Great song. a legendary song amongst Primus fans, and as it should be. Takes us over to track 5, Shake Hands with Beef. This is a song, again, we really see the simplification of a lot of the songs. It is quite a simple track, Shake Hands with Beef. But it's a great riff, a really, really good riff. Lots of those cool little bass trills that Claypool's so fantastic at. And of course the title, Shake Hands with Beef, of course everyone says it's a masturbatory reference, as one would assume, but Claypool just, apparently there was a friend of his that was trying to be vegan or vegetarian or something, and anytime he failed at it, he would say, well, I'm going to shake hands with beef, so it became a reference for, diverting from the norm, not necessarily being rebellious, but being mischievous. That's another quote from that Primus book, Over the Electric Grapevine. But yeah, it's a good song. It's just a really good riff, and it's got a catchy chorus. Puff tea, you want a small, shake hands with beef. Great track. And then we move on to track 6, which is Camelback Cinema. Got a great intro. We just get Claypool go, and then 2 bars of just insane snare drumming from Brain, and then we go into the Camelback Cinema theme. And this is one of the tracks where the drum production kind of gets tiring on your ear, because Brain's there pounding away 8s, dat 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 boom dat boom dat dat, and it just it sounds cool at first, but I mean halfway through the song it just starts it does kind of grate a little bit. But there's a great little bit of guitar atmosphere in there. I like the there's a section in there that's got this great little bent note that. Those bent notes that Lalonde is so good at, it's the subtlety of his string manipulation, which is quite good, but not one of the best on the album. I move on to track 7, which is Hats Off. Just a nice little tribute. It's kind of similar to De Anza Jig from Tales from the Punch Bowl. It's kind of like a little tribute to people who had contributed to Claypool's success over the years. Little vignettes of people and characters that have been helpful to him. So it's a nice little song. Like I said, nice little tribute. It's funny. It's like a folky kind of a song, but it struggles to be folky because those drums are just so pounding. Once that groove comes in, it gets heavy again. It's just the production, but in essence, it is a lighter, more acoustical, folky number. And then we go to track 8, which is Puddin Taine. This might be a controversial one. I think I've read Primus fans not being quite as big a fan of Puddin Taine, but I'm a big fan of it. I actually like Puddin Taine more than I like Pudding Time. Then that's almost certainly controversial. But it's a quite funny song. I like his vocal stylings going from the really low, they called me Puddin Taine, and then switching up to the higher register and going back and forth, which is quite entertaining. It's got a really good build too. I love how Puddin Taine starts. It starts out with the bass there, that crazy alternating pattern that he does, and the drums come in, and then once Larry comes in, da da dan da da dan da da dan da da dan. It's a really good build into the song, and it's quite a fun piece of stuff. One of my favorites on the album. I rank that one quite highly. Move on to track 9, which is Bob's Party Time Lounge. And this one could be a little bit more, related to Tales from the Punch Bowl. It's a little more complex than some of the other songs on here. The arrangement kind of goes in crazier places, and we get a nice little bit of sound effects, the sound of cocktails jiggling and whatnot. And it's basically about that kind of party culture and drinking too much and doing drugs and the dangers that are involved in that. And I'm quite a big fan. It's got that chorus is really, really good. It's got a great hook, as a lot of Primus songs do. Very groovy. So yeah, that's an A-OK track. Then we get to track 10, Duchess and the Proverbial Mindspread. Another contender for my favorite track on the album. I really like Duchess. Great track. It's I think it's an 11/8, and of course we get Larry Lalonde's just kind of doing that ska thing that he's just playing on the upbeats, so it creates this great little polyrhythm while Les Claypool and Brain are doing the 11/8 thing, and Larry's just And yeah, it's quite a good track. Quite this is one of the proggier ones because again the weird time signature. It's again the you know there's that complexity of that whole you know that polyrhythm thing with the two rhythms going back and forth between the rhythm section and Larry. But again the arrangement itself is kind of simplistic. Once we establish you know that alternating pattern, you know the song just kind of keeps going. But it's really good. I am a big fan. We move on to track 11, which is Restin Bones, and this for me is probably the weaker track on the album, to be totally honest. It's that bass drum. And there's so much bass drum in the groove that he does. And it just starts to hurt your ears after a while. You know, if the production was cleaned up a little bit, it could be a much better track. But you know, again, the majority of the songs on this album are really good. So there's gonna be its weak spots. Yeah, it could use better production. Restin Bones. We go to track 12, Coddingtown. Coddingtown, one of my favorites. Lordy, lordy, Coddingtown, ain't that the place to be? So this is basically, he's got the double bass out again, the stand-up bass, and he's bowling it, and it's basically a punk song. We start out with a big crunchy guitar, and once the stand-up bass comes in, you know, when he's bowling those notes, it just soars over what Larry and Brain are doing, and yeah, really highlight track for me. Bring me on back to boom doom doom doodle doodle doo. And then of course the big triplet dissension, dun 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 boom 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 doom 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 doodle doodle doodle. Really good stuff. I got carried away there, as I do. We're making our way to the end of the album now. We're at track 13, which is Kalamazoo. Another one of my favorite tracks on the album. I really like Kalamazoo. There's a song, there's a jazz track. It's got that old jazzy kind of a feel. Really get that jazzy influence there. But the lyrics too. That's an old jazz thing. A B C D E F G H I got a gal. You know, leading in like that, which is quite cool. And again, it has that retro flavor. It gives it that rustic retro flavor. But yeah, really like the guitar line. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it has all those jazzy elements, but it's still not jazz. You know, I mean, Primus isn't necessarily a jazz band by any means, but you know, if they were to cover a jazz song, I guess that's what it would sound like. Then we move on to track 14, the Chastising of Renegade. Now this is a very underappreciated Primus song, actually. I think this is a real gem. A gem in the rough. Diamond in the rough, if you like. Again, one of the more complicated songs on the album. There's a bit more of a, what's the word? Involved. It's got a more involved arrangement to it. And that's quite good. It has a bit of a reggae feel, too. You hear that Police influence coming in there, that the white reggae thing. But it is really good, and it serves as a good kind of finale to the album. And there's some really great playing, really great energy in there. And I mean, there's the bass line in parts of it during kind of the main theme of it, I guess, is quite similar to Puddin Taine. So I don't know if there's intentionally a bit of continuity that was put in there, but yeah, really good song. And like I said, it's kind of the proper finale of the album. But then we also get track 15, which is almost like a postlude at the very end. It's just kind of a nice little jam, actually, and it's really good. Arnie's a great track. I'm not sure entirely what it's about. We get, like I said, we get this really cool jammy bass line, and some very tasty chords by Larry Lalonde, and it gives that postlude feel. I mean, it's you know, it wraps the album up really nicely. There's no other place for Arnie to go except at the end of the album. Yeah, is it nostalgic? Is it a nostalgic thing, those chords that Larry's doing? I'm not sure. But yeah, regarding the lyrics, I have no idea what it's about specifically. We kind of get the mad ramble Claypool thing, and about a man that steps up to the microphone and God bless you all, and he soaks himself in kerosene and lights himself on fire. It says, "Remember this day." So quite bizarre and quite strange, but yeah, that's how Primus end off their albums, right? Bizarre and strange. So yeah, that's the Brown album. It's a pretty good album, you know. Of the two albums that Brain was a part of, I think I like the Brown album the most. I do have a few issues with the next album we're going to talk about, which is Antipop. It's not that it's a bad album, but it's just not a Primus album. But we'll save that for the next video. So the takeaway note with the Brown album, I think, is that you know, obviously we get new drummer. It's a very dirty mix, and there's another point that was just in my head that I thought was really... Oh, rustic! So it's a dirty album that needs a wash, and it's got a rustic vibe. So those are my takeaway things about the Brown album. And I think that should wrap it up. So thank you once again for watching, everybody, and stay tuned here for more chats on Primus. You will see me in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.